Hello, glorious scholars. It's already been a whole 2 weeks since we were last in school. If your 2 weeks have been similar to mine, you've been seeing this phrase almost nonstop, and that's the best way to get viruses off your body is to wash with soap and water. I'm going to show you why this is with a little demonstration. And I want you to note really quick that it says the best way to get viruses off your body is to wash with soap and water, not just water alone, and not with hand sanitizer. Great, so I'm going to show a little demonstration. You can actually do this at home yourself. But before we get to the demonstration, we need to know the enemy that we are working with, and that is the coronavirus. So here's a simplified drawing I made of the coronavirus. It's got RNA, which is very similar to DNA in our cells. It's got the instructions that tell a virus what to do and how to live. Around the RNA is a protective coating, kind of like armor for the RNA that protects it, and that is called a capsid. It's made of protein and it's a protective coating. The reason it has this coating is because if the RNA gets damaged, then the virus dies because it doesn't have any instructions on how to live. Viruses also have membrane proteins, which are these little spike-looking things around the virus. And these are like the keys to get into your cells. This is how the virus hijacks your cells to get inside and actually infect you. Now, the most important thing we need to know about if we're going to want to kill this virus is this lipid envelope. Because this lipid envelope is like a protective barrier, that's this black thing right here, that protects the RNA inside. If we can somehow get through this barrier to the inside of the virus, we can destroy the RNA and its instructions for how to reproduce and how to infect. So we get inside, we kill the virus. That's the goal. Now let's look at our claim one more time. The best way to get viruses off of your body is to wash with soap and water. Great claim, Mr. Brandt. Let's prove that with some evidence and some reasoning. Great. So I got this little demonstration, and you can do this at your home. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need some cooking oil. You're going to need some virus particles. I'm going to use oregano leaves. You can use any sort of spice like pepper or paprika or chili powder. You need some water. You need some hand sanitizer, and you're going to need some soap. Great. So remember how I said that viruses are in this lipid envelope? First, we need to examine what a lipid is. And a lipid is a fatty or an oily molecule that does not dissolve in water. Great. So the way we are going to mimic viruses is we are going to put our virus particles in some oil. Because your viruses live in a lipid envelope, very similar to cooking oil. So I'm going to put a little cooking oil in my bowl. Great, that was almost too much actually. I'm going to dump some of that out. You'll need just a little bit. So just a little bit of oil. I'm going to put some more out actually. Great. So I got my oil in my bowl. I'm going to add my virus particles now. Cool. So we got our little virus particles that are surrounded by our oil in the bowl. Now when you wash your hands with just water, here's what happens. So I'm going to put some water into my bowl, and I'm going to simulate hand washing by just mixing my finger with it. Remember, you should be doing this for about 20 seconds, which is actually quite a bit longer than you would think. Right now, we're only about like 6 seconds. There's 10, 15, and 20. So here's what you see. I'm going to put this under the lamp, see if we can see a little bit better. You got your virus particles that are in little circular pieces of oil. So your virus actually gets surrounded by oil and it doesn't get broken up. So your virus particles are still intact. The reason for this is because lipids, like your lipid envelope, are hydrophobic, which is a word that means water-fearing. You guys might have heard of the words arachnophobia or nyctophobia before. The word phobia, the word part phobia, means to fear. So these fatty and oily molecules that don't mix well with water are hydrophobic or water-fearing. And you can see when you start mixing it around, right, it's almost like the oil is trying to get away from the water. It's like it's fearing the water, and the virus particles are still in the oil. This is why washing your hands with water isn't good enough to kill a virus and break open that lipid layer to kill the virus. Great. Well, what happens if we use hand sanitizer, right? A lot of people think hand sanitizer is the best way to wash your hands. To rid your hands of a virus. Like, it smells like poison. It smells like it's killing. So let's see what happens when we add some hand sanitizer. So I'm gonna put that right in the middle. You might notice that it pushed all of the oil away. That's because oil and hand sanitizer don't mix. Hand sanitizer is what we like to call this word right here, hydrophilic, which is water loving. Now, philic is a word that means to love. You might hear this in the word bibliophile. You could call Miss Grossman a bibliophile. She is someone that loves books. And cinephiles are some people that love cinema or watching movies. Now, these things don't mix, so our virus particles are in the fatty, oily protective covering far away from the hand sanitizer. Let's see what happens when we wash our hands with hand sanitizer. So I'm gonna mix that around. Pretend I like washing hands. I'm gonna do this for 10 seconds. You'll see that even after washing our hands, let me put this under the light so you can see, we still got those virus particles that are in that big oily blob. So they're still protected and they're not dead. Now let's see what happens when we add soap. So I'm gonna take some hand soap and I'm gonna add it to my virus particles. Now let's wash our hands for 20 seconds. We're at 10 seconds. 15. And 20. Okay, so let's take a look. So those big oily blobs are almost completely destroyed. Some of them have turned into smaller blobs.